Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Anita DeCiani Brown, and I'm the Director of Career and Experiential Learning Services at SUNY Empire. And today we're really excited to introduce a new initiative in ways that we can help support our students with micro-internships. And so I am joined by Jeffrey Moss of Parker Dewey, and he is going to give an overview of the platform and how you as alumni can become involved. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anita. And it's really my pleasure to be here today um, and work with you and your colleagues at SUNY Empire State. So the agenda for today, we're gonna go through with a few things. First, can you see my screen okay, Anita? I'm always want to make sure Zoom is not misbehaving. So today we're going to go through sort of a quick overview of Parker Dewey and who we are. We'll talk a little bit about micro internships and what they are. And then we're going to get to the fun stuff, which is some actionable strategies that you can apply right now to support your campus recruiting efforts. We're also going to talk about just an incredible program that SUNY Empire State is funding that lets you put all of the things I'm going to discuss in action with no cost. And then obviously we'll leave some time for Q&A. The beauty of my ADD is I can usually do a reasonable job keeping track of the chat while we go through. So if you have questions, comments, or whatever, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And from a housekeeping perspective, yes, we will be sharing the slides afterwards and the recording and all of the fun stuff. So some of you may be joining us afterwards. So real quickly, who is Parker Dewey? We are a 10-year-old organization, and since our founding, we have been 100% focused on creating real experiential recruiting opportunities for employers to engage prospective candidates and really use a skills-first or skills-based framework to see them in action. And this experiential recruiting thing is time-tested and proven. It's how we hire people for experienced roles. All we've done is improved it and made it accessible for you to use it at your early career hiring when you are recruiting individuals who are graduating from Empire State. What we've done is removed all the paperwork and friction and hassle that would usually exist and making it easy for you to capture the data and make great hires for the full-time roles. And again, it's a ton of data that provides data that you really can't find anywhere else, data to help you keep candidates engaged or find those candidates who are aligned to your roles and see how interested they are. Data that gives you insights on skills and aligns with your strategic goals of your organization. And we've done this in a way that directly also benefits the hiring managers, giving them the data that they want to make great decisions. So this is all designed to address the challenges that early career recruiters face. Again, these things are not going to be surprising to you. You know these. You know that 71% of college students say that the process doesn't let them effectively demonstrate their skills. And you feel this when you're making hiring decisions. That's why we have a turnover in the first year, typically approaching 50%. We know the cost per hire continues to rise. What we're trying to do is allow you to have data and insights before you make that hiring decision. And because we've recognized that the traditional process doesn't need to be that way, that you can, by looking beyond the traditional playbook for campus recruiting, companies can have candidates who are excited to engage with them before they set foot on campus or post their job or participate in a career fair, virtual or on site. They can reach first and second year students when those individuals are most hungry to explore career paths and companies and industries and roles, or the students who are perfect for those last minute requests we know we always get from hiring managers. Students who want to return home but attend school elsewhere. And again, this is very, very important when I think about the student population at Empire State and so many of those students who are learning online, who have geographic ties, again, to regions that your employers, that your companies are based in, helping you reach them. You're also able to see data on the job readiness of the students, not based upon, again, their GPA or major, but actually those core skills, things like communication, problem solving, grit, those things we know the SUNY Empire students have in spades. helping you also demonstrate the effectiveness of your program and drive deeper collaboration with Anita and her colleagues at Empire State. You also are able to get insights on the actual level of interest by candidates. This is not one-click job applications where it becomes super easy. You're actually able to understand which students are most likely to convert and stay. And it's those actual skills, being able to see these things before you invest the time in the interview, before you work on getting everything scheduled or inviting to the office, you're able to really see their skills. This is experiential recruiting. It's the intersection of, again, skills-based hiring and employer branding. It helps organizations cut through the noise to really reach the candidates aligned to their goals and provide the insights on the skills to improve decision making. And to be clear, again, it's not just hire, don't hire decisions, but those earlier stage decisions that you usually rely on GPA or major academic pedigree. And in this economic environment, it also provides organizations to directly support their work and showcase it to other parts of the organization, showcasing why early career programs are vital to the company. How would they align to initiatives, whether it's around AI or whatever hot topic, and being able to present that data to the executives, the CFOs, the business line leaders to show how you can help them achieve their goals. So how do we do this all? It's not magic. It's this concept of the micro-internship. Now, if we were together live, I would ask by a show of hands, how many of you have heard of micro-internships before? But since we're not, and my Zoom skills are not uh, talented enough in Zoom to do that, I'll give you sort of a quick 30 seconds on micro-internships. I'm going to share the slide, so I'm not going to go through all of this in detail, but micro-internships at the core level are very, very short-term projects, 10, 20, 30-hour assignments that you can give to the SUNY Empire students as a way to see their skills. They're projects that are similar to what you would be doing in that first full-time role they would have with your organization, but also projects that don't require onboarding or training or sharing of info. They're projects that students can do using public info out there. And what's nice is it plugs right into your existing process. It's not some new step or a heavy lift. These are all things that plug right in. But as opposed to sort of telling you about a micro internship in concept, I'll show you some examples. So for instance, this organization was hiring for an entry-level data marketer role. You can see the job description on the left. An example of a micro internship might be doing a competitive analysis of marketing campaigns. Again, using public data, do not have to share anything. And what they're able to do is give you and demonstrate that they have the skills to do the role, not just the technical skills, but also things like creative thinking and presentation and market research and communication. And this can work across any kind of position. It could be a production operator. Now, a micro internship, you're not going to give them access to a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, but you may have them help with a training manual development. Maybe you'll even use that manual, but even if you don't, you're able to see, do they have the technical skills, but also how well do they communicate? Are they demonstrating critical thinking? It could be a developer role. Again, you're not giving access to a core code base, but let's have them do some UX testing or research trends in cyber. Even within HR, we see this. Think about all of those tasks you have on your own plate, like updating job descriptions or researching different vendors of HR IT systems. These are all examples of micro internships that let you engage those students, but also see their skills. And that's key, that these assessments, if you will, are built right into the process. Every step of the way, you're getting insights. When the students apply, you're able to see, are they a self-starter? Do they have attention to detail? As they're completing these projects, are they demonstrating empathy or timeliness from the final deliverable they turn in? You're able to see things like intellectual curiosity or professionalism. Again, those skills that we know are vital to those great hires, but they're really tough to assess from a resume or even an interview. So why do students participate in these projects? Well, it's because they want to learn about your organization and they want to demonstrate skills. In fact, 95% of college students have said this is how they want to be recruited. This is how. The websites all look the same. The info sessions are the same. This is how they want to learn about roles, and it's how they want to show their skills. So what does this mean for employers? Well, it fits anywhere in your recruiting pipeline. It lets you at the top of funnel reach students who are aligned to your goals, including those that you may not have otherwise met. It lets you assess the skills, gaining insights even before the phone screen or the job interview. It helps you keep the Empire students engaged after, whether it's on campus or virtual campus events or other efforts that you're doing. And it also gives you a competitive advantage in making the right hires. So I'll give you some, again, very specific case studies to walk through. So again, this first example was a manufacturing company that was really focused on building that candidate pipeline before formal recruiting season began. And they didn't have the brand recognition of some of the big guys. They also were sort of worried about the administrative burdens of doing things like ambassador programs. Well, one of the things that was interesting is they took a different approach to the campus ambassador programs than what's typical. In that they said, as opposed to having our campus ambassadors just be former summer interns, what they decided to do is use a micro internship to actually identify campus ambassadors to, again, build their pipeline. They were able to offload the entire process. And these campus ambassadors, they were able to see their skills, but also have them engage the student clubs, engage faculty members. And ultimately, it led to thousands of engaged candidates before recruiting season began. Not just those who were selected for the campus ambassadorships, not just those who sort of were brought in by the ambassadors, but all of those students who applied. And this organization was able to get real insights on their interest and skills. They were able to have this pipeline that was warm, whether it was for their, call it, seasonal campus recruiting efforts, but also for those last minute requests. And again, in this company's example, they had a last minute request for a student with ties to Indiana who was graduating at a certain date, who was studying engineering. They were able to pull from this database of engaged candidates they already had and provide that to the hiring manager. It made it really, really well. Now, while this works elsewhere, we're also seeing situations where companies are trying to find the candidates who are getting missed. This example is with a global medical device company that had very limited campus recruiting. They also were focused on student athletes. Again, as a medical device company, they were looking for sales professionals or business development roles and found student athletes to be really strong candidates for these, partially because they had the grit and the teamwork and all of those things that make a great sales leader, but also because a lot of them had to use this company's products, again, whether it's hips, knees, or otherwise. So what they did was they created a micro internship that was similar to the business development role, something like, we want you to identify 25 companies with a given profile. And for each of those, prepare this kind of information and then create a presentation on how you would pitch our product. Again, it's an audition. It was a test drive, a date, pick your metaphor. The hiring managers loved it because in addition to engaging candidates that may not have been thinking about working in the medical device industry, the hiring managers were able to get a preview of their work earlier in the process. This organization was able to reach students from over 1,000 schools, including those with ties to some of those difficult geography, and found massive time savings. And ultimately, it led to incredible hires. So we talked before about the fact that about 50% of recent college grads leave their first job within the first year. In business development roles, that number is typically over 80%. In this company's case, a year and a half later, 100% of those students who were hired for those business development roles are still at the company. 100%. That's pretty incredible. Now, one of the other things we also find is, how do you quickly source and select the candidates? Now, this case study is interesting because unlike the prior one, this organization had an incredible brand name. They are well known. Every student has heard of them. But the problem was, a lot of the students, when this organization was showing up on campus, assumed the roles they were hiring for were working the front desk at one of the fitness centers or being a trainer. They found it was difficult to drive interest in roles like HR. They also found that when they were getting interest, how could they quickly determine who were the right candidates? So what they did is they identified an always on task that they had. In this case, it was looking at new hire onboarding best practices. It was similar to, again, one of the responsibilities for an entry level role, but it was a real task that someone in the HR department had. They posted the project, got candidates, and they wound up picking 5 to do the project. All 5 students completed this evaluate new hire onboarding, and they were able to use it to, again, support some of their work, but also tease out who were the right candidates. And there's 2 examples of candidates that really jumped out to me. One of the candidates was a 3.9 GPA from a fancy school who was an HR major, who looked incredible on paper, sort of an obvious person to interview. Another one of the 5 they picked was a general business major, a lower GPA from a less prestigious school, but there was something about her application that stood out, something about that short answer question. So again, they were picking 5. These were 2 of them. I'm sure you can probably guess where I'm going, but the one at the top was by that HR major. There's some good info in here, but there's also some typos. And did she really format it as well and understand? The one at the bottom was from that student that they weren't so sure about. The one that, in the words of the hiring manager, yeah, we probably wouldn't have interviewed or put onto our interview schedule if we were recruiting at her campus. They were able to see her work. They were able to realize how amazing she was. And fast forward, she got picked not just for this micro internship, but it led to a traditional summer internship and then ultimately a full-time role. And again, this is someone who, in the words of the hiring manager, we probably wouldn't have interviewed if we were just doing the traditional process. This is an important one, given we're all here tied to the relationships we have with SUNY Empire. What we're seeing is more and more organizations are using micro internships to deepen those relationships. This organization was a healthcare company, one of the leading hospital systems that was recruiting for not just healthcare roles, although there was a lot of allied health, but also some of the other positions. Again, marketing, sales, finance, HR. And they were really interested in both driving student interest in some of those allied health roles, but also deepening the relationships with the colleges, the clubs, the partners there to make sure that they were, again, top of mind. And that's so important, especially in healthcare, where there is just a shortage of talent. So what they did was they posted micro internships for specific schools to, again, deepen that relationship, to give them a competitive advantage when recruiting the students at these schools, but also getting insights on the candidates, able to understand, again, who had the skills to thrive in this environment. And then the last example is tied to the use of data. This is an organization that, again, had a very limited early career program, but the team there wanted to make the case to managers and senior leaders that they should be ramping it up, but they wanted data to do it. They posted micro internships and they got that data. They were able to see that they could engage students with some of their tough to fill locations. They were able to see insights on cost per hire tied to some of their mission-driven initiatives around diversity and gender equity and STEM and all of these other things. The data was at their fingertips. And it wasn't just rear view mirror data, but it was also data that helped them drive future decisions. And again, this works for employers because it fits anywhere in the funnel. It fits whether you're focused on accessing them, whether you're focused on assessing them, driving conversion. And this is one of the slides I'm most proud of. The fact that we are not a quote unquote diversity platform. We are open to everyone. But over 80% of the students who complete micro internships come from populations underrepresented in the workforce. And to be clear, this includes veterans. This includes first gen, Pell eligible, individuals who have the grit to thrive. And we're seeing it happen authentically. But we're also seeing other aspects of business impact, 40 to 80% cost savings, in cost per hire and north of 98% retention within the first year when you're making those full-time hires. Again, compare that to the approaching 50% turnover of recent college grads, 98% retention, which brings me to the place I'm probably most excited. Empire State is funding an incredible program that allows you to see all of this with no cost. It lets you reach students who are aligned to your goals. It lets you get insights on skills. It lets you keep the students engaged after you meet them and ultimately provides you with that competitive advantage. And I hope Anita doesn't mind me speaking for her, but I think the school created this program because they want to help the employers. They want to help the employers access, engage, and ultimately hire their students. They want to prepare students for the right professional careers and ultimately capture the insights. And what you get with this is access to the pool of candidates from Empire State. Parker Dewey is there every step of the way to provide the support, craft projects for you, and access to all of this data. So to get started, it's pretty easy. We include a link at the bottom of this, or you can use a QR code. But think about it before visiting campus, and again, visiting in quotes, as a way to engage the students. So before posting that job, before attending the career fair, here's a way to get your brand in front of the students. When you're at the career fairs or presenting in the classroom environment, you can use these projects to drive the meaningful discussions and keep the candidates warm afterwards, or get insights on their skills. Again, we know the students at SUNY Empire State are incredible. They're hardworking, they have grit, they have all of those skills to thrive. Here's a way to get their insights earlier in the process. And again, even if you're not formally recruiting the Empire State students, it's an incredible way to start to dip your toe in the proverbial water. So with that, I'm going to open it up for any questions or see Anita, anything I missed.
Nothing that you missed, and I appreciate your sharing out about the wonderful platform. We really are excited about bringing this opportunity to SUNY Empire students, as well as having a way for alumni to be able to support and engage with our students in the career sphere.
Yeah, oh, do you know, I'm so happy you mentioned that. I kind of glossed over it when I was trying to make sure I kept this at under 30 minutes. Um, One of the things I love about the platform, and again, we sort of glossed over it, is the ease. That
Mhm.
this, because we've removed the administrative burden and the HR burden, because they're not employees of your organization or contractors of your organization, in the case of this amazing program, because you're not even paying them, they're paid through this wonderful program, SUNY Empire State funded, anyone can participate. So as an alum, what a great opportunity to give a project to a current student, see them in action, maybe find someone you want to hire, but give them an incredibly valuable experience. So even if you're not making the HR decisions for your organization, you can still do this without any lift. And it's just so powerful.
Yeah, and I also appreciate this particular platform, because when you look at the sort of the life cycle of experiential learning, so not all of SUNY Empire students might be able to participate in a full-blown internship. Having being able to participate in a micro internship is something that they can market themselves on their resume during an interview. But also it is that for those students or those individuals that have not had much experience yet, either in a career path, haven't built on a foundational skill that's needed, this is a good test for
I love
individuals
it.
to kind of dip their toe in the water, like you had mentioned in your part, but having them first try out this micro internship and then gain that confidence, so then they can apply for a paid internship or something more significant. And I think that this is just the flexibility also, because these would be virtual. It does work for SUNY Empire students, because the majority of our students are non-traditional students. So they are working individuals who, again, they may not be able to take the time off from their work to be able to participate in an internship, but they can still gain this project type of experience, and be able to have something additional to talk about in interviews, and like I said, to market themselves. So this is, I'm really excited about moving forward with this.
And I love your point. And in fact, it was less creepy when a college student said this. Ooh, my auto light just went off. I guess I didn't stand up enough. Um, One of the college students said it, that if you think about a micro internship, it's like going on a date, where the summer internship is getting engaged, the full-time role is getting married. And they don't replace the different steps. And to your point, Anita, there's some students who aren't able to get engaged because they have full-time jobs or part-time jobs or family obligations or otherwise. Yeah, it's certainly a great opportunity to go on a date, but also, again, maybe it leads to that engagement. Maybe it leads to a contractor relationship with an organization or a summer internship or other opportunity. We also got a question in the chat about, if our organization's needs are flexible because you're a small nonprofit, how do you recommend matching our priorities with the student strength? I love that question. One of the things I always think about are the we shoulds and the I shouldn'ts. Again, it was a quote from one of our early clients, that they think about, what's the project sitting on your plate that you say, we should go do this, but there's not enough hours in a day, or I don't have the right skill set, or the I shouldn't. It needs to get done, but is it really the highest and best use of time for me? And an example in the nonprofit might be, we love to research the IRS 990 forms of other nonprofits to understand potential funding sources. Or we need to create a presentation that highlights key metrics that our organization has done to help us with fundraising. Or we want to do some social media outreach. All of those are examples of the we shoulds and I shouldn'ts. So Sarah, what I would suggest is starting with those. What's a task sitting on your plate that might be 10, 15, 20 hours? Something that doesn't require you sharing sensitive data or access to internal systems, or really a project that is a bet the organization. Something that, again, like the examples I gave, those are all perfect micro internships. And the nice thing is, at the link that I shared on the screen, if you go into there, there's a form that you can fill out and just put in your information, and let us know in general what you're thinking. And if you're not sure, that's okay. We have an entire team here that's happy to talk with you and make suggestions. And the nice thing is, the matching with the student strengths is easy. That you're going to post your need, and the incredible Empire State students are going to see the description. And maybe the project is a social media one, but that's not my forte as a student. Okay, I'm not going to apply. Or it's a data analytics and that's not my skill. Yeah, I'm not going to apply. Or maybe it is exactly what I want to do and where I have the skill. But gosh, I didn't realize nonprofits sort of had opportunities for data analytics students. I'm going to apply. I'm going to sort of apply to that role, and Sarah's going to be able to see my skills. Again, the beauty of this is it's that win-win. It's that win-win. But again, start with where you have a need, whether it's an individual project need, like again, the IRS 990 review, or where you have a job description. So again, Sarah, if you have any open roles you're looking to hire for, send us the job description. We are happy to make suggestions of some of those micro internships, like in the slides I showed you. I hope that answered the question. Awesome. Anita, anything else I missed?
I don't believe so. I think that I had communicated this through our alumni office, but we are looking at project work. So the micro internship to be about a 20-hour project. or 20 hours of work. So in this micro internship, maybe it is like 2 smaller projects, but looking at an expectation of about 20 hours. We really appreciate, again, this platform. So for those that aren't familiar with Parker Dewey, or that might be somewhat familiar, this component, so the ability to be able to fund projects specifically for our students, is something that is a little bit newer. So right now, if one were to look at Parker Dewey, there is that, I'm going to call it that public facing platform where students from across the country can apply for roles. The funding that we have allocated for this initiative is going to be specifically for only SUNY Empire students. So, a student from another university would not be able to access this information. They would not be able to apply for the opportunities. So this is directly impacting and helping our students.
Yeah, and again, that's why I'm just, first of all, I'm honored to have Parker Dewey involved in this, and second, I think it just says so much, Anita, about you and the entire SUNY Empire State community. Um, that with everything going on in post-secondary education, everything going on with the job market, and like SUNY is creating this incredible win-win for both students and employers to sort of help employers identify, engage, assess, and ultimately hire sort of the incredible students coming from the program, students with those strong both technical skills but also core skills, and do so in a way that, again, everyone wins. So it's truly just an incredible program.
Yeah, we're really excited, and hopefully we can see this grow. Our initial launch now has kicked off, and hoping to be able to support about 70 projects through this initial funding. So we are really excited about it.
Yeah. And then another question, the fall semester, will it be available other times? And write something about 3 students. So I'll try to touch on that. Or Anita, why don't you? I mean,
So, because we want to make this available for multiple organizations, as well as students, we decided to limit it to 3 projects, or 3 micro-internships per organization. And that is so we can have some equity in a variety of organizations and options for our students. So that's why we had settled on that. And then as far as the semester, it really will depend on, we're looking at hopefully a very successful fall semester, meaning that all of the projects have been filled that we have allocated the funding for, and that all the students have been hired, by the end of the fall semester. That's what I would consider my metric of initial success. And then based on that, we will need to look at other opportunities. Do we have additional funding where we might be able to sponsor some additional projects? But then it's also, I think that this could be a good baseline to show organizations how successful it is. And then there might be organizations that decide, okay, like I'm an alumni organization, I want to be able to supply a few projects. I might not be able to hire a full-time or a semester-long intern, but I can supply funding to be able to identify a few more projects, and then submit those. So there's a few different ways that we're looking at this as being successful, but it really will be kind of like that, the grassroots and groundswell kind of approach. So our initial projects, like I said, is going to be about 70 projects. Per organization, it is limiting it to three micro internships. Initially, we're looking at the fall semester, and then after that, we will probably have more of an announcement again. And at that point, we're also going to be able to share out some of the data as a result, because there is student data that we'll be able to provide, as well as organizational data and the feedback on the students. So I think that will be able to tell a very important story on the impact of this initiative.
I just see another question in the chat. From my perspective, it doesn't matter that the nonprofit doesn't have any paid employees, as long as it is a legitimate organization.
Yep.
Again, because we know it's going to be a valuable experience for the learners.
Yes.
With that, this concludes the webinar. As I said, the link is in the chat to the landing page where you can learn more, get started, and we'll be sharing the recording slides, etc. Anita, again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for everyone who joined for the session. And with that, this concludes the webinar. Have a great
Thank you,
rest of your
Jeffrey.
day.
Bye-bye.